with every shot.
Yes, sir. With everyone.
Shot. Good evening. We will now call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Let us start with roll call. Commissioner Weaver?
Rachel Weaver here. Cindy Greengold.
Kathleen Baralt?
Larry Brown.
Mary Sue Greisman. Kelly Hahn.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Jan Rutke is not present tonight. Now, if you'll all join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. With liberty and justice for all. Okay. And our first point of business, the approval of the November 20th, 2024 Planning Commission agenda. Do I have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show, none opposed. Now we will approval of the minutes of the October 23rd, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Do I have a second?
Move approval. Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Brown? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Again, none opposed. And now I would like to say that, as Douglas Adams, the author, said, to give real service, you must add something that cannot be bought or measured with money, and that is sincerity and integrity. So as we begin this meeting, I just want to thank everyone here for their service and dedication to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I appreciate your work, as well as I know the citizens and residents of the town do. So thank you. I also want to say that it has been my honor and pleasure to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the past 5 years. And it truly, I've learned a lot from each and every one of you. I've learned a lot about the process. You've educated me about planning and zoning, and I really, it's been truly my honor and privilege, and I want to say thank you. This will be my last meeting, so yes, I now would like to take this opportunity upon my departure to nominate a chair for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I would like to nominate Cindy Greengold for that position. As you know, Cindy is very knowledgeable. She has great expertise and much dedicated service to the town for many years. And she's served as the chair previously and also as the vice chair. So she is well equipped to take the helm. So do I have a second for her nomination? All right. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? Congratulations, Madam
I guess I
Chair.
have to vote for myself. I don't know. I'm not sure I want to, but.
And now, my last order of business would be to nominate and elect a Planning and Zoning Vice Chair.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
I would. Sorry, thank you. I've turned it off. Madam Chair, thank you. I would please like to nominate Commissioner Larry Brown for Vice Chair. He's been chair before. He's done a great job. We'd like to see him as vice chair, and you never know, he may step into this chair. So thank you very much.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Congratulations, Commissioner Brown, on the Vice Chair.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am?
I would just like to, before you decide to leave us today, I would just like to thank you for your service, your 5 years of incredibly valuable service to this commission. I could not have sat here by myself, or actually with 4 or 5 other people trying to get through some of these issues if you hadn't been by my side. I'll tell you, it's been a tough road. We've had all kinds of text amendments and comprehensive planning and all kinds of issues to have to deal with. And she was chief editor, bottle washer, and bottle cleaner. She could do everything on this board, and she did it graciously and talently. And she was just we were just lucky to have her here. She's been a godsend for us. So thank you very much for helping us out through these really rough years of getting through the comprehensive plan and through all these text amendments, whatnot. We're going to miss you, but we know that in your new job as town council member, you're going to even do a more spectacular job than you ever did here, even on this commission, if that's possible. So thank you again for your service. I want to give you a little applause for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And you're right, absolutely. The comprehensive plan, when I was newly appointed, and my first month in July, they put down this 134-page document, and they said, "Oh, we're going to begin reviewing this draft." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I never knew I was going to read 134 pages every month." I was like, wow, they don't play around. But it was an amazing, incredible amount of work that this commission has done. And I know it was at times, and I believe that was under Commissioner Brown's leadership at that time with the comprehensive plan. And it certainly was an incredible amount of work and dedication. And but we certainly got it done, and thank you. And as I said, I don't think there's a more dedicated or committed group of volunteers in this town that staff a board or commission in the town. So thank you very much. And now at this point, I would like to say congratulations, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
And
thank you. Thank you.
I'm happy to, I'm going to miss the gavel, but I'm going to. Sharon, can I take the, no, I guess that's not my parting gift. But anyway, I will now turn this meeting over to you and your new chairmanship role. And if it's okay with you, I would like to just participate in the meeting. But if you'd rather.
You're still a member of this commission. You have not resigned yet.
That's
So
true.
you may still have a seat at the helm here. You may still sit right there in that little very seat right there. I'm going to go ahead and continue the meeting though, because we do want to be out of here by 8 o'clock. At 7:45, I'd like to end the meeting, or at least get near the end of the meeting by asking for commissioner comments. So if you all have any comments, we're going to try and gear them to 7:45, maybe sooner if we can get through the early part of signage. Quickly, we will see how this works. We asked our planner, Ms. Franklin, to go ahead and write up a lot of the beginning part of the signage code, which would be just the purpose, intent, and definitions, so that we can just break up this, I think is a massive code, so that we can kind of just chunk it into little bits and really get into the heart of it here. To me, definitions are important. I know there's a lot of confusion of the kinds of signs there are. Let's go ahead and look at old business signage. It's been very old because I think we've had it on the docket here for like 5 months, and it's just now really starting to go forward. Okay, so if you look on your memo, let's go to Ms. Franklin and ask her to have a staff report, and then I'm going to come back to the dais and ask everybody for questions to our town planner. So go ahead and offer a staff report, please, Ms. Franklin.
So at the last meeting, we talked about breaking up different aspects of the sign ordinance and tackling intent and purpose and definitions today. So I provided you with a purpose and intent and a series of definitions. These are based partly on some of the different ordinances we looked at before and on a general model ordinance, and have been tailored, I believe, to fit Chesapeake Beach. And so I hope that you guys have some thoughts and opinions on the changes that can be made to make them really reflecting what everyone in the town would like to see with regards to signs. So I'm ready for your comments on purpose and intent and definitions.
Okay, so if you see that A is purpose and intent, that is subdivided between purpose and intent. I guess we could, even just make it one general purpose if we wanted to. Let's go ahead and just ask questions about just A and see if you have any thought. Let's not make conclusions right now. Let's just ask questions of staff. Does Commissioner Hahn, do you have any questions of staff right now as far as what's been written up here?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Griner? I'm sorry.
Greisman.
I'm sorry, Greisman.
Greisman.
You know what? I'm getting confused because I kept hearing her say a different last name every time she was up here. So now I'm going, is it Griner, Greisman? It's Greisman.
Rice. Exactly.
I
You-
learned it.
You know what? How many different times I've heard your name? But anyway, I'm sorry, Mary Sue. Go ahead.
It's
Commissioner Greisman, I will make sure that's the last time that happens.
because you'll do something.
I've never had to say your last name. I just now realized. I've never called you by your last name.
It's the only comment I have so far is about grammar, and I don't know if this is the time to address that or not, but I would note that in under intent, small a, it ends with a preposition, and I believe that it should say that this sets standards and provide uniform controls to permit reasonable use of signs and preserve the character of the zone in which the sign is located. I just think that's grammatically correct, and in a legal document, I think we should be as less formal, keep up standards of the English language. Sit up taller, please.
So, so that is your only comment and suggestion right there. So within that entire category A, that would be your only thing. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Larson. I'm sorry, you want to go by Weaver. I'm sorry.
Hello.
I will
Am
get the names all
invisible?
straight. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You are. You are to me invisible at this point. Invisible. Commissioner Baralt. I'm not going to say Chair Baralt anymore. Commissioner Baralt, go ahead. I'm sorry. It's the first time I've ever had to say her last name. I'm so sorry.
A note that Commissioner
Mary Sue.
Mary Sue. I think we're going to go to that.
after she talked about the preposition A at the end of it, there's also two periods. We're going to,
I thought that would get cleaned up.
well, let's just make sure. But anyway, I guess my question is it typical that we separate out purpose and intent? Because I think intent and purpose aren't, to me, they seem synonymous.
So a lot of the ordinances we looked at are based on a model ordinance, and it breaks out the purpose and intent. We don't have to break them out. We can put them all together. We can change this. I was trying to base on what we had reviewed. We can delete the whole thing and write 3 sentences. I wanted to give you something to think about. And in the beginning, I think more is more. In the end, with your final document, less is more.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think, the purpose and the intent, it's like the mission statement. I think the simpler the better. I shouldn't digress, but that is what Walt Disney, they've got the best mission statement in the world. It's one sentence and every employee knows it. We bring, magic to people of all ages. And if everybody's mission statement was so simple, I think it would be a lot better and people would remember it. So I agree. But that's all my comment.
Commissioner Weaver, what are your ideas? Or actually questions is what we're going to try and do right now.
No questions at this time.
Okay, I'm gonna ask if we got this from one source or is it multiple sources put together? Because it looks to me like there was like different sentences from different locations. Is that what's happening here? Like when you talk about the purpose, I feel like it's kind of disjointed. Am I seeing that it's from different sources or or did you just rewrite what happened there?
Yeah, I rewrote some elements of this. So
Okay.
the purpose in the beginning, right, is it's kind of giving you your legal justification. So I wanted to make sure that stayed in there. So in keeping with the appearance of the community, protective of public health, safety, and general welfare, establishes a legal purpose for having the ordinance. And then I just kind of took the rest of what was in the model and tried to tailor it to meet what I was hearing out of the commission as to what they would like to see.
Okay. It's, I think there's some redundancy here. I think we can all agree that there's some redundancy. So I think we need to try and consolidate it. As Commissioner Baralt was saying, that we've just got it too wordy at this point. I have looked at other sign ordinances, and they're all fairly wordy, actually. They get into really trying to break down exactly all their different types of reasons and purposes, et cetera. But I think, if we went to even, these 3 or 4 that you actually have, personally, and let's go ahead and let's start making comments about it. What I think are the main purposes, and I want everybody to actually chime in on this. You've got most of them, which is the public health, safety, and general welfare. We have to have that in there, of course. We have to have in there that I think it promotes and identifies and promotes properties, businesses, services, et cetera. I think that's an important, part of the whole communication issue. We've got to have that. But I think the beginning, it says to ensure that they are appropriate for their use in keeping with the appearance of the community they are located in. I think that's a little vague and a little confusing. And I think what you're trying to say there is you're providing standards. I think we're providing a standard for consistent enforcement of a look, and I don't want to say, you could say appearance, I guess, but you want to have a standard and consistent enforcement of the design, the use, the appropriateness of signage, but it doesn't come out clearly in that sentence. And is it just me, or am I just, and then when I look down on the intent, it's kind of the same kind of thing. Maybe what we need to do is, under intent, maybe what we should do is make that purpose and just put in there to include something about the public health, safety, and general welfare. Maybe that's all we need to do. I don't know. What else does anybody think about all this? It seems redundant. It seems wordy.
Well, it seems to me that the first and last sentence would be cut out.
So be specific, Commissioner Brown.
The first sentence is deleted, and the last sentence is deleted out. Left with-
You mean on the purpose part of it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just starting to sign.
So you want to say signs perform an important function in identifying and promoting properties, businesses, services, residences, events, and other matters of interest to the public. And is that the only thing that we want to put for purpose, or do you want to add something about the, welfare, the health and welfare? What? Yes. Excuse me. It's commission. Should I just go with Mary Sue? She doesn't want Grice. Okay. Yes, Commissioner Mary Sue.
It all adds to the citizens. It's it's also for identifying properties, businesses, services, events, et cetera, for, I guess it's matters of interest to the public and, you know, citizens, something. I mean, I think it's also, well, I guess the public incorporates citizens, so.
Yeah, we don't want to leave out, you know, all residents and non-citizens. I mean, you want to bring in
Yeah,
the public,
okay.
right? So,
Madam Chair?
yes.
I think, well, it's interesting to me that they refer to this as an article. I would remove the reference to article, because even in definition, they were like, well, they say as used in this section, which I think that's a lead in we don't need, but we're not there yet. But I think if we take Commissioner Brown's recommendation and eliminate sentence 1 and 3, and then just begin with signs perform, would we then have the three, keep the three intents, like 1, 2, 3, like bulleted items, and then for that paragraph, for that section? Because I think we need to have something, although sentence number 2, you know, signs perform an important function, then under intent, they're more specific. They set standards, provide uniform controls, and I think that's important, as well as why you can't have just every sign, and that talks about B, the erection of signs in variation that they couldn't create a hazard, and then the last C. So I think if we were going to go with Commissioner Brown's recommendation, I would keep sentence number 2, and then under intent, keep those 3 items and just bullet them.
Commissioner Weaver.
My one thought though is what we're leaving there then is telling us what the purpose of a sign is and not what the purpose of this ordinance is, which doesn't actually, that doesn't seem to make as much sense to me as saying, this is why we're talking about signs. It's just like, here's why signs get used.
And if I might add, I think we need to add the word communication, identification, and promotion. I think, you know, we need to add those 3 words in there. And we also need to remind ourselves that it's about the health and safety and welfare of the community, or of the public, that we're also very concerned about, as well as ensuring a consistent enforcement of regulations of signage. I mean, there's a lot we've got to actually include in here. I guess A is really, when you look under intent, A is really set standards and provide uniform controls. But do we want to really say uniform controls, or do we want to just
Uniformity.
uniformity? I mean, do we have to, exactly, uniformity in regulations of signage?
Or
Let's go.
after uniformity, take out controls that permit reasonable use of signs and preserve the character of.
Are you typing, Ms. Franklin?
I'm,
Okay.
I'm typing as y'all talk.
At the
yes.
at the top, if we can add in, can we start with something like this? Signs perform an important function in the communication identification, and promotion of properties, businesses, services, residents, events, and other matters of interest to the public.
You just want to add communication.
I think communication, identification, and promotion of properties, businesses, et cetera. Yes, Commissioner Mary Sue.
Thank you. And then I'm thinking, I think the next step would be because signs contribute to the physical environment and aesthetic public space in the town. You know, or something about that. And I'm also wondering if this should be called like introduction. Just like an introduction as to, you know, why. It's like,
Instead of purpose, you want to change it to
I just
introduction?
think because purpose and intent, but I think it's the introduction to the body of material follow. That's
I think typically what we're seeing in codes correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Franklin, that we're seeing that purpose and intent is usually what begins all of these codes instead of even though it is an introduction. But do you think we could change it to introduction and have it still?
I'm not wedded to it.
I think the purpose is important for legal reasons. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but because you're establishing why you're regulating this. So that's why I think that it's his purpose and intent instead of introduction.
If I could add could we at this point add appropriateness as well as identification, or do you think appropriateness is getting too much into subjectivity?
Appropriateness could get us into signed content.
Because you're talking
which is-
above, you're talking about the appropriate, to ensure that they are appropriate for their use. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to figure out, how do you take that idea and bring it into that, or do we need to?
Right. And you might not need to, because appropriate for their use just kind of means, you're not advertising a yard sale with a giant banner, right, in your yard, or you're not advertising a U-turn with a tiny little, there's some appropriateness to the size and content of that for the function. And I think when you talk about communication, identification, and promotion, and also if we maintain protective of public health, safety, and general welfare, you can cover that.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and then include that. And then I think Commissioner Greisman, may I say Greisman? Is that okay? Thank you. Commissioner Greisman has a good point that then we continue into the science contribute to the physical environment and aesthetic of public space. I think we can continue into that next sentence as you have already.
And just so for that last sentence, the reason that's in there is because you had kind of talked about establishing some design guidelines. And I think that something needs to be in the purpose of an intent about the physical and aesthetic if you're going to
Down the road, if
have
we come
some
back to that.
guidelines.
Mhm.
In that last sentence, you can put their citizens, or whatever, of health, safety, welfare, citizens, could put that in there as well to get those words in.
Or do we want to bullet point those three things, as Commissioner Baralt was saying, still continue down and bullet point the uniformity, I mean, the other intent really is to make sure that we have a uniformity of regulation so that everybody knows what is expected of their signs. So do we want to just, add to that sentence, add to that paragraph, or make it a bullet point of doing that? And then we go with the next one, the hazards to the pedestrians and motorists. And then do we go to the last one, number C? I mean, do we do it that way or just keep it as a paragraph? How do you want the structure of this to be, in other words? We could do it either way. We could do bullet points to make it,
I think the bullet points are sort of like they're kind of like action, like we're setting, we're prohibiting, we're avoiding. I guess you could say, and then we're also protecting. I guess we put it,
okay.
could be a consistency of
Okay. So read what you have, if you don't mind, if you would read what you have already.
So
Does it make any sense to you? what
no,
you
it does. I've also typed up a way to reduce the first sentence and
Great.
keep the health, safety, and welfare. Do you want me to read?
Yeah,
my
absolutely. Yeah,
suggestion?
of course.
So to regulate signs in the town of Chesapeake Beach to ensure that they are protective of public health, safety, and general welfare. Signs perform an important function in communication, identification, and promotion of properties, businesses, services, residents, events, and other matters of interest to the public. And signs contribute to the physical environment and aesthetic of public space in the town of Chesapeake Beach.
You might want to say like additional, I mean, just.
Yeah, I went to make it a
additionally
run,
or-
and then it felt like a run-on sentence. That's why. I
Yeah,
said-
additionally, signs contribute.
Okay.
So far, that sounds pretty good. What does everybody think about what it sounds like already? Are you pretty good, Commissioner Broad? What are you thinking?
I mean, my only concern really was with the purpose and the intent, and I do think that if it's less is more in this regard.
So if we just say purpose and just make this one purpose and not have to sub out, you
Yeah.
know, the different categories, I think we're okay.
Yeah.
So if you continue with A, do we even need A anymore? Set standards? Yeah, I guess we do. We need to set standards to provide a uniformity. Right? Or
I mean,
what?
Do we need to identify the zone in that?
you could take the whole intent part out and just stick with the purpose and then do these things. They're supported by the purpose. But if you want to be more specific, you can leave them in.
I think it's important to identify the fact that we are concerned about well, we already have in there about the public welfare. We do have that still in there, the public welfare. So we do have that, but we also, number C to me is an important one, minimizing clutter and all that. We really should have something in there about that, I think. But is that part of the aesthetic? I don't know. I mean, maybe that's part of the aesthetics.
Right. Yeah, this is kind of the like less is more is more preference is
Okay.
the purpose supports everything that's in the intent. Do you want to be more specific about your intent, or do we want to just keep that intent in my memos to say, remember, our intent with this ordinance is to do these things, so we make sure we do them? Or do you want to have it actually in the ordinance?
Read it one more time if you would, please.
The purpose to regulate signs in the town of Chesapeake Beach to ensure that they are protective of the public health, safety, and general welfare. Signs perform an important function in communication, identification, and promotion of properties, businesses, services, residents, events, and other matters of interest to the public. Additionally, signs contribute to the physical environment and aesthetic of public space in the town of Chesapeake Beach.
I think it's covered almost everything else in the intent. What are your thoughts? Anybody else have a thought about that?
Madam
Commissioner
Chair, I
Hahn.
do. One thing that concerns me is I like B because it tells them you're prohibiting this and it lays out what you're prohibiting. I don't think, although I like that purpose, I don't think it discloses what we're going to prohibit.
And that could also be at the health and welfare it can be right after the health and welfare because it talks about where they may create a hazard to pedestrians and motorists. So that would kind of be a good that opening paragraph.
So now we're back to inserting A, B, and C.
But it might just be in a different
Format.
form.
Format? Okay,
Yeah.
then you have a suggestion of how you want to,
Sarah, I was thinking that after when you talk about the health and the safety and the welfare, you might want to put that somehow that subparagraph B is then follows that immediately because that relates to each other before you put in about the aesthetics. Does that make sense? Please say
Yes, I've got a thought on that.
I mean, we're all sitting here tonight and we know what our goal is, what our intent is, right? But when we deliver this document and it goes in and it's approved, someone later down the road is not going to listen to this conversation and not understand what our intent was.
You want me
I
to
think
try
she's
again?
right. I
Great.
think, I mean, without creating a run-on sentence, can we insert that? I think that is important.
Do you want me to read it? Do you want me to read what I have?
Yes, if you would, please.
to regulate signs in the town of Chesapeake Beach to ensure that they are protective of the public health, safety, and general welfare. To prohibit signs that may create a hazard to pedestrians and motorists. Signs perform an important function in communication, identification, and promotion of properties, businesses, services, residences, events, and other matters of interest to the public. Additionally, signs contribute to the physical environment and aesthetic of the public space in the town of Chesapeake Beach. I added a the that wasn't there. Sorry.
I think at this point, could you put in the excessive use of signage? Could you put in number C after that? Then could you put in something to the effect of,
Yes.
something to the point, and I hate to start putting in avoidance or prohibit or any of those negative terms, but something to the point, to the effect of reducing or minimizing the appearance of clutter, unsightliness, confusion, or something like that, you know? So you can include those words in there somehow.
You want me to read what I got?
I knew you already wrote it, so.
Okay, so to regulate signs in the town of Chesapeake Beach to ensure that they are protective of the public health, safety, and general welfare. To prohibit signs and conflicts between signs that may create a hazard, clutter, or confusion to pedestrians and motorists. Signs perform an important function in communication, identification, and promotion of properties, businesses, services, residences, events, and other matters of interest to the public. Additionally, signs contribute to the physical environment and aesthetic of public space in the town of Chesapeake Beach.
The only thing that, it sounds good to me, except starting that sentence with to prohibit,
Mhm.
it seems like there needs to be like a lead-in to that. It
Right, because we're talking about the purpose. So the purpose is to do these things, but let's think about that.
So read it again, that we have to change. What is it that, how
Just
does it
as-
sound?
To prohibit signs and conflicts between the signs that may create a hazard, clutter, or confusion to pedestrians and motorists. So it's starting the sentence with to. The first two sentences start with to. They're
Oh.
defining the purpose.
it didn't hit me that way, but if they
Yeah.
did, then that's consistent. Then
It could say the purpose of this article. And someone said we should take that out, so I had deleted that, but I can put that back in.
What article?
The purpose of this article.
Yeah, I didn't like to me, this isn't an article, it's a
Section,
policy, I mean, it's a
code, section.
code, yeah.
Yeah,
it
it's a
doesn't-
section of the
It's a section, really.
zoning
It's a section
ordinance.
of the code is
Yeah.
really what it is. So are we getting too wordy
Yes.
in this now? Now it's sounding a little too wordy.
We do realize.
Just put it back.
In a
It sounds
different
like,
way.
sounds like we're putting it right back.
I think if you're deleting the intent, then it works, right? Because you just consolidated what was in the intent into
Yeah.
shorter sentences.
did.
And then that works. There's been some deletions, not a lot. And I might be able to work on this last sentence to make it shorter as well. Let's see. But I think it depends on if you want to delete the whole intent section or not.
I think it's confusing to have purpose and intent. I've thought I've looked at these other codes and they all have them separated out. And I don't understand it at all. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's
So
because of the model they're based
it
on.
is basing out on models. Yeah.
And so they all just kind of went with it.
Exactly right. Exactly. So I say, let's just call it
I think purpose is good.
purpose is all we need to have, really.
So I'll delete all the intent. And then I think it is wordy, but it's still bringing itself together and can.
Because I think if you think about it, the purpose is the intention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To my mind, there's just synonymous with.
I think as long as you set out the ideas that are written here, even if it's in a different format and you don't have a separate intention section, I think that's fine.
The only thing that I haven't heard that we've kept in, and maybe we don't even have it really designated here, we sort of do, is I want to make sure that people understand that the reason why we have these codes, the signage code, is to ensure a fair and consistent enforcement of the regulations. And I think that's really important, is that people say, okay, why are you doing it? It's because if Joe Blow does it this way, we're going to keep that same kind of consistent regulation throughout the town or throughout the commercial, whatever district or zone. And I think we need to have that as one of our purposes, is that we're enforcing the rules consistently and fairly. Can we put that in there somehow?
Okay, tell
Is
me if
that
this,
something you all agree that we should
It's
have
fine.
in there?
Can't hurt.
How about set standards and provide uniform?
That's,
Or it's already in here, actually. So if, I don't know if you left that in there. You didn't leave that in there, did you? Or you took it out? We were
um,
talking about uniformity before, but I didn't hear it the second
well,
time.
that's in the intent. So I took that out.
You did take it out, yeah.
So hold on. Let me,
Let's
Look at
just go
that
back and put
quickly.
most of it back in.
yeah,
well,
it's kind of funny.
My way of saying it's more and it's written where just
Coming into different pieces of.
I added it with, I hope I added it with 4 words. Let me tell me how you think this sounds. The purpose of this section is to ensure fair and consistent regulation of signs in the town of Chesapeake Beach and to ensure that they are protective of the public health, safety, and general welfare. To prohibit signs and conflicts between signs that may create a hazard, clutter, or confusion to pedestrians and motorists. Signs perform an important function in communication, identification, and promotion of properties, businesses, services, residences, events, and other matters of interest to the public. Additionally, signs contribute to the physical environment and aesthetic of public space in the town of Chesapeake Beach. Did I do it?
I think it sounds pretty good. It's that same to prohibit. that
Yeah, that, yes,
bothers me.
yeah, it's
It
yes.
just doesn't flow right when you
Right.
just say to prohibit. But it's almost there. I think it's almost got everything in there that we need.
If you want me to work on that kind of
There's
transition
just a
on
couple
the
words you got
side,
to change in that.
I can just put a comment in here to work on that.
Yeah.
And what I've been doing is using the strike through / all caps method. So I can provide you with the changes for next time. And then if there's any,
Change it
minor
again.
tweaks to that.
Well, I
can go
just
from
wonder
there.
if you want to do it right now, put you on the spot,
I'm having trouble with.
give you 5 minutes,
Okay, let me think about it.
and then we can not have to come back to it, which is the way I want to do it. I don't want to come back. We want to come back
Because
to
when we
this.
come back to it, then
We
people have new
change it.
thoughts. And then it just-
This is exactly.
Yeah, let's say that as language back. Long enough to know. We don't want to come back to it.
How about this section? We have to say that again. Prohibit. Hmm.
How about instead of prohibiting, how about if we minimize the clutter? Isn't it that we're prohibiting?
Oh, this section
limits.
seeks
The,
to eliminate.
eliminate or
prohibit?
to
But does,
minimize.
that still has that sentence starting with a prepositional
Right.
phrase,
You're
which is
still
what is
starting
making
it,
the point.
yes, uh-huh.
Unless I say this section, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Second
that's okay.
Section.
I was hoping to come up with something more creative.
Let's not be creative. Let's just get it done. Get her done.
Sweet thought, though.
There's no room for creativity.
What do you think? Do you have something that sounds good?
Yeah, that's about 10 lines of text.
Perfect. Let's read it
You want me
one
to
more
read it?
time.
Okay.
Mhm.
The purpose of this section is to ensure fair and consistent regulation of signs in the town of Chesapeake Beach to, oh, nope, we repeated a word. Let me try that again.
I have a sentence.
Yeah, hold on. Okay. The purpose of this section is to ensure fair and consistent regulation of signs in the town of Chesapeake Beach so that they are protective of the public health, safety, and general welfare. This section seeks to eliminate signs and conflicts between signs that may create a hazard, clutter, or confusion to pedestrians and motorists. Signs perform an important function in communication, identification, and promotion of properties, businesses, services, residences, events, and other matters of interest to the public. Additionally, signs contribute to the physical environment and aesthetic of the public space in the town of Chesapeake Beach.
I like it.
We want to
Read and list it.
change where some of the sentences are located. Do you want to move them up and down? How do you think?
I think it sounds
Yeah.
That's really the key, is when you can read it out loud and we can actually understand it. I think that's really important.
My only question is, do we need to be specific about pedestrians and motorists? Can we just say,
Oh,
not specify that?
yeah, that could be deleted.
Okay, so if you delete it, then how, the other thing is that it sounds funny that we don't put at the top that signs are for the promotion, the communication. To me, that is a key topic sentence, you might say. It should be at the top.
You want to explain what signs are
Yeah,
first, like take the
exactly.
bottom two.
Exactly. I think that should be at the beginning of what you're going to say. Is there a way for you to
Yep.
zap that to the top?
Okay, and then I'll read it again. Come on. There we go. Okay. Signs perform an important function in communication, identification, and promotion of properties, businesses, services, residences, events, and other matters of interest to the public. Additionally, signs contribute to the physical environment and aesthetic of public space in the town of Chesapeake Beach. The purpose of this section is to ensure fair and consistent regulation of signs in the town of Chesapeake Beach so that they are protective of the public health, safety, and general welfare. This section seeks to eliminate signs and conflicts between signs that may create a hazard, clutter, or confusion.
Bam.
Did you say create a clutter or create clutter confusion?
Create a hazard,
A
clutter,
hazard
or
clutter.
confusion.
I think it's complete. Is everybody, Commissioner Brown, what do you think? I didn't hear, I saw everybody else, but I didn't see anything, so I was making sure that you liked it. You don't like it? Oh, he doesn't like it.
Tea leaves.
I mean,
I believe I'm a minimalist.
you are a minimalist, and it's too many words.
We've made it more minimalist. We've
I don't
reduced
think
it some.
that's a word.
It doesn't matter.
Is there anything that you can hear in that that we could cut out and still make it read, to give us that similar type purpose? What are your thoughts?
Here.
It is all that's here, but it is shorter.
It reads easily.
It reads, some of the wording here didn't read easily when I was reading it over and over again, especially where it said purpose. It didn't read well for me. I don't know, maybe it was just me, but I think it sounds better this way. I don't know.
Well, the consolidation of the two of them.
It consolidates, it simplifies it.
Yep.
So I thought maybe you had another idea that you wanted to include. 'Cause I didn't see anything, a yes or a no. Okay, I think it sounds good unless you come back and you say you have to make a big change, Mrs. Franklin, but if not, I think we're all good with that.
Mhm.
Okay, now let's move on to the definitions.
So, Madam Chair, I think we should, that little phrase, as used in this section, I think we just should say the following terms shall have. Following terms are defined as, I don't
How
know,
about just definitions of different signs?
yeah,
Well, if I could point out
go.
that as used in this section, many of the terms that are defined here are not used in the subsequent article. So we should write the article first and then go back and define the things as used in that section.
Do we even need that sentence? Can't we just have definitions?
Mhm.
Like, why do we have to say as used in this section? Because
Lawyers.
Because that's what it already says. So we can change it.
Yeah, I agree.
I just was leaving.
People know what
was already there.
definitions
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, I don't think we need that sentence. So let's go ahead and just eliminate that sentence. Is that what we want to do?
Mhm.
And Commissioner Brown,
We're getting rid of it.
are you saying, what do you, let me go back to again, ask you what you meant by that. So is that all you wanted to do, is just take out that one sentence? Or did you want to take out a lot of the definitions that we're not going to be using down the road?
Mike,
Well,
Commissioner
as used in this section. I would write the section first and then go back and define the terms that are used in that section.
Because we're bringing up terms that never get referenced, so.
So they should just saying that the placement of the definition should be after.
No, there's, if marquee sign doesn't show up, but obviously that is one that does,
Yes.
then why do we have a definition for it if it's not in the later code? We're just like saying like, here's some words about signs that aren't in the code in essence.
A balloon sign, I don't believe is used in section or animated sign. I'm not sure, but there
Correct.
are a lot there that are not used in the, so why define them?
you mean not used in the town?
Not used in this section.
Right, we understand what you're saying now. So Ms. Franklin, what do you say to that?
Right. So because we're reevaluating the code and we're going to go through section by section and change those regulations, what I did was I took the definitions that seemed like they might be relevant for us from both the model and all of the other ordinances we were looking at and put them in here. I deleted stuff that seemed like it wouldn't be relevant. It seemed like it might be at all relevant to us. I left it in so we have it later. I think if we don't reference them when we're all done, I should go back and delete those things. But I thought it would be useful as we're looking at the next sections to have all that information. And we could just go back to on premises and off premises sign in the end. But there was an interest in this information.
Commissioner
so.
Weaver has a question.
Well, I just think knowing that these are things that could be covered, it just seems like we pause on these so that we're not like nitpicking language around things that may or may not be necessary, but that we come back to this once we've decided what is included in the code and then fix any pieces that we need to from there makes more sense, I think, based on what Commissioner Brown is saying, and that makes sense to me. We don't have to do the definitions until we know what's included.
On.
I agree.
I'm not so sure. Just because a specific sign, let's say something's not mentioned, but somebody comes to apply for a sign that is of one of these enumerated types. I mean, you're saying that if each individual sign that's listed in definitions is not in the body of the document, it should not be defined?
As used in this section.
But we're taking, if we take that out and just have definitions.
Well, why would you have the definition there?
You mean following?
No,
this-
why would you say a definition is not used in this article, but we still want it there? Why do you want it there?
Well, what happens if someone in the future wants one of those definitions of the signs, but we don't include it in the regulations? They can see that we have it here, but we didn't include it in the regulations. And it at least defines the sign that they potentially want. And then they can see that it's not addressed. I mean, definitions
So
is just for you to understand what the
It's
word
not-
is.
Like,
Yes, there isn't.
let's say if I was applying for a sign and I didn't know the name of it, but I said, hey, you know that I want a sign on my car lot that it goes up and down and up and down and everybody's like, what? And I think it's, oh, do you mean a balloon sign? even though they might not know the correct term, I
Mhm.
think, and we're unfamiliar with it because we've never had that type of sign before. I think it's good to have a definition. So, because somebody could want that sign for their purpose.
Commissioner Weaver, I think, has a question or a comment.
I mean, I think that this comes back to something I had said in another meeting, but I don't know. And I think I feel like there's a danger in putting a definition of every single sign that we currently know, because then I think the more valuable thing is to have a really robust definition of what a sign is, so that it can include all of the things we currently know and don't know could be made in the future. It being a balloon sign or not a balloon sign doesn't matter what type, if it's a sign as defined by what a sign is. Just seems to me stronger. But that, I think that that's just like a kind of a preference on how I think code should be written.
Generic.
So what would be your definition of a sign
what-
that would include all of these?
If you look at the definition of sign in there, it gets at lots of it. Any structure, part thereof, or device attached thereto, or painted or represented thereon, on any material or thing, illuminated or otherwise, which displays or includes any numeral, letter, word, model, banner, emblem, insignia, device, trademark, or other, you know,
Page?
oh, this is
It's
on
page
7 of
19.
19.
under
Like
the-
that, kind of having a really
Thank you.
robust definition of what a sign is, then I feel like it saves us from the people saying, is that covered, not covered?
A lot of times you put it to include but not limited to.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not a bad idea, though, to have the definition so people kind of know where their sign falls.
And for example, when we get into prohibited signs, then we need to know, well, what is a window sign? Is a window sign prohibited? Yes, it's prohibited. Well, what is a window? Well, you've got the definition of a window sign in under definitions. So I guess your point is well taken, but on the other hand, we need to know, well, what are the prohibited signs? Well, here they are in the definitions. So I guess we get a little confused. Planner, Franklin, what do you think?
I think, I'm sorry, I don't remember which commissioner made this point, but it might make sense to kind of move forward with how, kind of keep these in here, right, for right now, and put the decisions on them towards the end, move forward with looking at the regulations, and then have me kind of go back and say, we didn't regulate these signs, I'm just going to delete them out and do a review of the definitions once all the other regulations are in place to make sure that it's matching up. So it might be a little bit, we went in order of the ordinance, but we're ahead of ourselves with whether we need to define things. But it's also useful for you all in talking about different signs to have the definitions in front of you.
So in other words, we need the definitions for us to be able to talk about what we allow, what we don't allow, et cetera. So we need them right now, but we may
Not
down
need
at
them
the
later.
end, take them out or change them around, whatever.
Mhm.
So I think is that a good enough idea for everybody? Just we'll hold on to them for a little while. And because we do want to talk about digital versus, animated versus, there's a whole bunch of different types of flashy lights that we need to understand what their definitions are. So I think these definitions need to be in here so that we can all refer to the same kind of sign. Correct? I mean, that is important. Even though it does get confusing, we need, and then I have actually one question. How do we really spell marquee sign?
There were multiple spellings.
Okay, I was just making sure
And I just picked.
you picked one of many, but I thought it was Quuis, but it's.
Yeah, I thought it was
it's like, I was,
Like a nobility.
I
isn't
thought
it,
that
or
was-
something?
That was why I
I-
decided how I
sure,
decided.
You
exactly.
agree with me?
Yes.
Okay,
a
okay, so
decision.
there's that.
Parameter.
So we're not even gonna then go through, we're not gonna even go through the definitions then. We won't even talk about the definitions at that point, or do you want it?
I mean, I think we can tweak them later if we need to, but they are, fairly consistently kept throughout the different models and the different ordinances we looked at. So I think it's more tweaking which ones you want in and which ones you don't when we get to the end.
Okay, so I think we have concluded what I want to get accomplished tonight, which is the purpose and the definitions. If we wanted to continue, which I don't think we should because we weren't going to discuss this tonight, the exemptions from the terms of this article, I don't think we should get to that point yet because that wasn't in the agenda, the original agenda. So, but I would like to ask you under C, where it says window sign and on page 8 of 19, C, exemptions from the terms of this article.
Mm.
I'm trying to figure out what that actually means. Does that mean prohibited signs or what does that mean?
Yeah, so I looked at the packet and I noticed it doesn't have the colors of what I put in and what was already there. So this is already here. And it's a little interesting because it's not really actually exemptions everywhere, right? Sometimes it's saying something that's prohibited, and sometimes it's saying something that's exempt, like the tacking or painting. I know that no, it's all prohibited things. So I think that needs to be, I think we need to possibly rethink or restructure how things are laid out. And, you know, have like what signs are exempt. So you might have temporary signs that are exempt or, yeah, probably temporary signs, other,
So,
and then
okay, so
covered.
C was going to be prohibited signs.
So C starts where you have what's existing right now. So after the definition section, it's just what your existing regulations are.
Oh.
So I haven't made any changes or proposals to the existing regulations.
So you're saying if we go into our code,
This is your code.
the code
is your code.
begins at C and it says exemptions from the terms of this article. That's what is in our code currently.
Right.
You just read it verbatim.
It's actually B, intent and exemptions, but I changed that part because it's now, basically I've taken the sign ordinance, put it into this document, and I'm doing track changes on it as we make changes.
Wow. Okay. All right. So I don't think anybody probably has gone beyond definition. Has anybody really gone on beyond definitions here tonight? I don't think anybody
I read
has.
the whole thing.
Well, except for Commissioner Mary Sue, who has done everything. But I think we need to probably end here
Mhm.
and let's look at what we would do next meeting. What are we going to just do? How do you want to proceed then with the rest of the regulation here, or the rest of the code? How do you want to do this?
So I think it might be useful to propose some restructuring or rewording, almost like an outline of how we might move things around. It would also be useful for me to have some feedback on the types of signs, like, are we happy with what the ordinance does? We have a lot of I was out today looking at the non-compliance and taking pictures to provide to y'all. And kind of just a discussion around what you want to see and what you don't want to see, so that can help guide what changes are actually made to the ordinance. So maybe next time I do restructuring and we discuss sort of where changes should go, if at all.
Okay, so if everybody has their code
Mhm.
in front of them, it would be, the signs, are on, it's 290-22. As you can see, we had 3 definitions. We had like 3 definitions.
And they're still in there.
Yeah, they're still there. I got it. Okay. But so, I like how we had word interpretation
Mhm.
in here. So if you look on, there's no page number actually, but if you go to 290,
It's page 9 in the document that we've been working off of.
which you go
And
in,
what's this?
290-85 is on the bottom. 290.
And you said it's number 9,
But
Sarah?
if you go to our packet that we got, it's page 9. Yes.
Where it says sign ordinance update, discussion document? Top of the page? Where are we?
It is hard to see that. Okay, I can see where you're. Okay, now if we go back to page 8 where it says exemptions from the terms of this article, do we
Mhm.
not want to start and look at that?
That's where the code begins, right?
Right. That's where the code begins and where it seems to be prohibitions rather than exemptions. So
If everybody can look at B, so it'd be 290-22 signs, and you look at B, intent and exemptions from the terms of this article. That is indicated here on page 8 of our agenda, which is labeled C. She struck out the B intent and blah, blah, blah. So your point is on number B, on letter B, do we want to, those are prohibitions. Do we want to keep prohibitions there? Or are you saying move it to another part of the code? Or what are you saying essentially?
well, I think
This section, I should
that
say?
section should be appropriately labeled, right, as prohibitions. But there's other prohibitions under, if you go to what's currently H and would become I, general sign regulations, there's more prohibitions in there. So I think it makes sense to get all the prohibitions in one place. Maybe start with general sign regulations, then go into residential districts and commercial districts separately, as is already done. But sort of just restructuring how the ordinance is set up and making it easier to follow. So right now, if you want to put up a sign, you have to go to like 3 different sections of the document to see if you're allowed to put up
Right.
that sign and how big it can be.
Correct.
I don't know how you all feel about a table that I feel like tables help people who want to sign very easily find what their regulations are. So I would recommend a table, but I'm not sure what you all are thinking on that, and just kind of a restructuring.
I like a table.
I like a table.
Tables can work very well, and I think that's probably a good way to make it more readable and organized.
Mhm.
So if we can do that, I think that might be the way to go, unless anybody has an objection to that. So when you look at a table, how would you lay that out?
So what I really want to do, and what I guess I'm asking is if for next time, could I present sort of a reorganized ordinance with a table proposed for sort of a starting point for discussion? And that's just reorganizing what you already have and laying out what you already have. And then you guys can give me some feedback on what changes you want to make. So then we can go from a more organized format into the changes.
Kind of sequential and
Succinct.
Are you talking then, where would you put prohibited signs? So they wouldn't be included in the table, or would they?
I mean, I might do 2 tables. I might have them in one table. I haven't really,
Okay.
I'm just proposing this
So
is
you're
what I would
just
do for next
thinking
time.
out
is-
loud that that's how we should restructure the rest of this code.
Mhm.
And that's what is up for discussion tonight, everybody, is how you would like, if you're taking a look at what we have currently, and it's not that long of a code. But of course, we're going to add to it probably as time goes on. It probably would be easier to identify things if we had it in some kind of a chart or a table. I agree. And does anybody have any objection to that? Then I think that would be a good idea. So let's try and organize it that way for next time. That'll eliminate a lot of words, a lot of fluff. I think that's a good idea, actually.
So there would be 2 tables, one showing the prohibitions and one
So I-
showing,
Once I get into it and like for this time, I did the purpose and intent and the definition. So once I sit down and get into reorganizing, trying to make tables, it could be 3, it could be 1. I'm just not sure
Mhm.
what that would be yet. I'm just proposing that be the next step if that works for the commission.
Okay, well, let it be your decision and hopefully it'll make things go a lot easier as far
Madam
as.
Chair, I
the
have a
tax code.
question.
Yes.
So somebody puts up a sign
Mhm.
prior to election, prior to the 2 weeks allowed. Town goes through, takes the sign. During this past election, we heard a lot of signs disappearing. There was all different kinds of things being posted on Facebook. Can somebody help me understand the process? If something is posted where it shouldn't be posted on town property, what is the protocol?
They remove it.
And then what happens? Do they call the person that they removed that sign and notify them that we removed your sign, you can come get it?
Yes.
No, they don't. Do they notify
I
you?
was
So-
notified,
Were you?
when, my sign was removed, I was notified. Cause I removed myself because I didn't realize it was town property. But yeah, I got a call saying your sign is not in a proper place. We've removed it. It's at town hall.
I'm so disappointed.
I'm weak. What I can.
I know
just-
SHA just throws them out. but-
Yeah, and I mean,
I mean, because that I think should also be notified in here that, you know, depending what our protocol is when something is placed in on town property that it shouldn't.
yeah, I mean, I think I probably got a courtesy, hey Kathleen, but I think normally what they do is they remove it and discard it, and it's, oh, so sad, too bad. But I definitely think it's, in regards to these tables, I think it's, just the fact that Sarah said you've got to look at 3 different places to find out if you can put a sign. That right there is crazy to me, because it's the same thing as, the tree permit. I mean, it took me a while to understand I was having a branch cut. Can I have the branch cut? Do I need a permit? And I really wanted to get it right because I'm on the tree board. So I was like, I don't want to look like I'm in violation. So I think even if there's a chart that says your sign placed improperly will be removed
Or yeah.
or
here are the
whatever,
steps.
but I
Here
think
is
it's,
Information.
it should be clear
Yeah.
prohibitions and what
process.
are there, and what's good, what's not good. I think the table is, the clearer the better, because I think it's just, these codes
Yeah.
for somebody just looking through what kind of sign can I have for my restaurant? It's like, oh my gosh, no sign. We're not gonna have a sign. Just tell people.
And I'm assuming that B and C, if you look at, if you go back to almost the beginning where it says
Mhm.
intent and exemptions and word interpretation, will that be clarified in these tables or,
So the tables won't replace everything.
Yeah, okay.
We won't be able
I
to
was
do
going to
that.
say, you're
but
not going to be able to put those.
They
kind of
might not
things
even
to-
replace anything really, but also because there'd be a supplement so you can look in one place. And I will try to replace some words with tables though. The other thing is, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the request is to organize, add tables, and add an enforcement section.
Yes, I believe we need the enforcement section. I was looking for that myself and
There is. no
we're
one.
very short on that. And I know we've had complaints during the election. Well, why doesn't anybody get fined for blah, 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 on their illegal sign, whatever. So we need to look at that. So there is,
I mean, and
What-
is there even a place in the regulations or the map that shows what is town property and where signs are not allowed to be posted?
Yeah, 'cause it's definitely not clear what is town property, what is not, especially in between properties.
I wonder if we could put a map
Yeah.
in our sign codes as far as the voting, the regulations for election materials. Is there a way to put a sign, a map in to indicate, here's where you can put them in that's legal, public property, et cetera?
So typically, because that kind of changes with some frequency, what folks will do in their sign ordinance is say, the town will maintain a map of permitted areas for, if it's related to elections, it may be covered in your elections ordinance. I'm
think
not
so.
sure. I
I
have to
Nice
go
that it's
look.
referenced here too.
But-
Nothing in there about
Well,
Right.
it's really about public property.
Right.
You're not allowed to put signs on public property, so we need a map of,
Until 24 hours before the election.
Yeah.
Then you can put it on
then you
public
can put it
property.
on. public-
So then there's the whole, there was a situation where I asked you, can I put a sign on on your yard? You own the property. You say, sure, Kathleen, go ahead.
Mhm.
I put the sign there. But there's a renter at your house.
Mhm.
And so the renter says, OHN, I don't want that sign there. Then they remove it. And so, I mean, it was just.
I've
it just-
never heard that.
It was just crazy, yeah.
oh, we
it-
can't-
Yeah,
We,
you just
Yeah,
made that up.
please.
Yeah, I did too.
we encountered all kinds of weird things with signage over the last few months. I have to say, this has been an eye opener. So I guess the question is, do we need a map that indicates public property where we're not allowed to put, or is that just something referred to? What?
Yeah, I wouldn't put a map in an ordinance because the town may purchase properties or sell properties over time, and then you have to update the ordinance whenever that happens. It would be better to say that a map is maintained at town hall of public properties.
Or maybe on the web too, on the town.
But if you put that kind of thing, then you create the requirement for it. And if we don't have an updated thing, then we're,
Yeah, then we're in violation.
Yeah.
I get what
Okay,
you're
but
saying.
here's the thing, if we're gonna require people to follow this regulation and tell them that they can't put it on this property, we have to tell them where that property is.
that's what I'm saying, Tess. I agree that we have to have it, but even the state, to put it in code where they're going to find that, especially like on the web and it being maintained versus it being at town hall, it just feels like a greater chance of us being in
Do
violation.
they have to have you don't have to have a permit to put like an election sign, you don't have to have a permit. But, because what I'm thinking is and I'm not advocating a permit for a sign, but if somebody could then verbally say, hey, yeah, you can put that sign up, but just remember, you've got to be mindful of town property. It can't go on town property. Because I do think the map will just be too changeable.
So campaign signs are super tricky because
And expensive.
yeah, they're covered in the sign ordinance, but when it comes to sort of enforcement and regulations around them, you're also getting into your elections ordinance, and you're also getting into some tricky enforcement situations for staff and all of that. And so I think it's best to say less, right? They're a temporary sign the same way your by your gutter cleaning service is a temporary sign. Technically, they're supposed to be treated in exactly the same manner, but because they are related to elections, sometimes things get swiffy.
Yep. Very diplomatic.
Okay, so we have a direction for next
I have
month,
direction for
which
next
is,
meeting.
okay. We don't need any motions because we're going to make this all one motion when we complete this. So we are just going to wait. We probably won't even finish next month. I would assume it's going to take us a few more months to get through this. Don't you anticipate that at this point?
I anticipate next month we'll have feedback for the changes, and then I can provide changes in January and possibly be ready to go in February.
We probably should have a public hearing
Yeah.
also. So in
Yeah.
February, probably a public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at 7:20, we're going to try and get done early. So what I'd like to do then is go.
Very impressive.
I know,
Chair.
it's when you have
You couldn't
less.
do that.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to love me. They're going to love me as chair, right? Okay. So what I'd like to do is move to the next item, which is going to be commissioner comments. Who would like to begin with commission? What? Kelly is looking at me like, no, not
First.
No, okay, sorry. Okay, Commissioner Brown, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do.
Yoke.
As you recall, the last meeting, we had the coastal resiliency plan presented to us.
Yeah.
That was put together by steering committee and a technical advisory committee. The town participated in writing it, and then the town council adopted it. In the plan, it lists 5 recommendations that begin with amend the zoning ordinance. Amend the zoning ordinance and thoughtfully evaluate the zoning ordinance. I think it's incumbent, well, and the other thing is, in the first one, says specifically for the next decade, the certification of this professional engineer, which they're recommending. So it's timely that we take a look at this and either make a recommendation to the town council or not, but to affirmatively look at each of these recommendations here and consider them. So I would suggest that we put it on our agenda at some place after the signage or whenever, so we can consider those things.
Okay, all right, very good. We'll make note of that. Commissioner Hahn, would you like to?
Not at this time.
Oh, I'm dying
was-
to know.
Not at this time.
Okay, and maybe Commissioner Mary Sue.
Well, without pulling any expressive faces over here, no, I have nothing. Thank you.
Is it about me?
I know, I was gonna say.
No.
Commissioner Brault.
Yes, I would just like to say that the Planning and Zoning Commission's role is going to be very critical now, even more so with a brand new town council. Of the 7 members of the town council and the mayor, only 2 of them have previously served on town council. So I think it's really going to be critical, your role at planning and zoning. And it's a vital function, as you all know. So I don't know if you want to, if there's some way that you want to help the town council and the mayor to understand the role of planning and zoning better, and maybe to become more familiar in orientation. But I just want to say that you have a brand new council next month, and you don't have only 2, as I said, of the 5 members of the town council and the mayor have ever served previously on the town council or as mayor. So I think it's really critical that they understand how significant and important this commission is.
Thank you. Commissioner Weaver.
No comments at this time.
The only thing that I would have to say is, when we complete this signage, and we have our public hearing, I think, we really do need to identify this, the whole election situation over again, because there were so many complaints on signage and it created fights and issues. I mean, it was really ridiculous, actually. But I think we really need, when you redo those, if you don't mind, just clarify, if you would, a lot of the prohibitions, you might say, or, the exemptions, whatever, of the election materials, the signage especially. So if you wouldn't mind just addressing that more precisely, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so next meeting is going to be on the 18th of December. So everybody please note that we will be adjourning to December 18th. So if anybody would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just one thing.
Mhm.
Just so I understand, so the election information is going to be incorporated in with the signage? Because I know when you're a candidate and you're running for town council or mayor, the Board of Elections gives you a packet of information on one packet. in signage. So I just clear about, will that be included?
That's
Because I don't want that, it's important you get that information, obviously, candidate, but that's the only way that I got it.
Did you want to quickly make a reply to that?
So, I mean, the regulations are there. The regulations are provided to the candidates. The general public might not know what the regulations are, but there are always and everywhere issues around campaign signs because when they're taken down, sometimes people think someone else took them, and it becomes difficult because you're in a small town and people are running for office. So I'm not sure. I've have other sign regulations in here, and I'm not sure if I pulled the elections one because that is so far from zoning, but I can add it to the packet that we're working off of so that everyone can see if there are sign regulations around elections and how that ties in to what we're doing.
So your point is it will be in our sign
It is.
codes. It
right,
is in our,
the
it is
sign
already
codes.
in our sign codes, but
Yeah.
it will be in our sign code
Yeah.
in the future, of course. So yes, the answer is yes to your question. It will be there. Okay, if anybody doesn't have any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting to December 18th. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, there was no motion to adjourn.
Oh, did you motion?
No.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Does anybody second that? Nobody's trying to correct me tonight. Okay, all in favor? And we motion to, we go by,
We're adjourned.
we're already adjourned, so there's that.
We're re-adjourned.
Kathy, see ya.
Thank you very much, people. You guys do not help me out here at all. Everybody's making fun of me. I can't say the right last names. I can't remember how to adjourn the meeting.
I was all fine until.
I know. I know it, I know. And
You're mispronouncing her name.
now I gotta call Commissioner Mary Sue instead of Commissioner Greisman. I'm so